Hey folks, we're back. That's right, a second season of the Our Balls Are Bigger postgame show after every green and white game. Join me along with my co-host Kyrie Zaber, the former NFLer and CFLer, and accomplished high school football coach Ryan Hall, as we break down each week's game for you. And new this year, we will welcome your telephone calls. So yeah, like a regular call-in show, call in, we'll chop it up with you. Can't wait to have another fun season. It's the Our Balls Are Bigger postgame show. And welcome to another Our Balls Are Bigger post-game show, the first Friday night edition, and wow, what a game that was. That is why I consistently say the CFL, and not just the CFL, but the three-down game is the best version of football on the planet. You would not see that in a four-down game if one of the teams didn't have a timeout or two timeouts. That game would be over. And you probably wouldn't see the kickoffs returned. Super Mario, 34 years young. Chalk it up for the old guy, relatively speaking. He's a lot younger than the two guys hosting the show, Michael Ball and accomplished provincial high school football coach Ryan Hall. Kyrie Zaber will join us, not today. He will join us next week when the Riders take on the BC Lions. So with that win, the Rough Riders improved to 3-0, and the Toronto Argonauts, for the first time since Ryan Dinwiddie took over as head coach, fall to 0-3. And I'll welcome in Ryan Hall now to the show. And Ryan, this is why when, back in the day when we were playing with the Rams, or even when you were coaching high school football, I was coaching high school football, you have everybody in the school gymnasium, wherever it is, and then you say, kickoff cover team. And then everybody stands up and you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Hey, who's I'm going to say this one more time. Kickoff cover team. And then Bobby slowly stands up and then you say, Bobby, wake up. It happens in pro football. Toronto scrapes and claws and comes back. And then they only have 11 men on the field. That's got to drive I know it drives a coach nuts.
Yeah, plays like that drive a coach mental, not having guys on the field when they're supposed to be there, and receivers going offside. Those are like the two worst penalties for a coach to go through.
Yeah.
And there was both of those tonight.
Yeah, there was.
Receiver offside tonight.
Yeah, so we'll talk about a bunch of those things. Now, Ryan, if you're the Riders, you're happy to be 3-0. There's no doubt about it. What was the old saying Craig McTavish used to have as coach of the Edmonton Oilers? We don't critique wins around here. But as a coach, you can't be happy with right around 200 yards in penalties. Both teams were sloppy. Both teams were undisciplined. But almost 200 yards in penalties, that's not good enough.
Yeah, and I'm going to quote another coach who you and I both know that we talked about last week, Frank McChrystal. Bottom line, we win, they lose. That true. Was I remember Frank saying that one as well. But yeah, you're right. And the lack of discipline, and we'll probably talk about it tonight, certainly the lack of discipline was extremely obvious in the penalties, but the lack of discipline is also pretty obvious in the Riders' pass defense as well. Discipline's not something that you turn off and on. You either choose to be disciplined and to control yourself and to listen to what the coaches say and to do it and to not respond negatively when some guy flaps his lips after the play or gives you an extra shot after the play, or you decide, no, I'm more important than the team. I'm going to push back. I'm going to beat back. I'm going to be lazy in my assignment on the field. And that was a struggle with both teams tonight.
Ryan, so let's talk about one of the big plays in the game. And I wanted to make it my takeout of the game, except it was an illegal play, so I'm not going to do that. But Del Duncan Busby, who I've met a couple of times, and he's a fine young man. And let's be honest, we're playing a physical alpha male sport. But I just want your thoughts. There is no excuse for that type of play, cutting the legs out of that Argos defender. You could end a man's career like that. Now, had it been a yard inside the tackle box, it's considered a legal play, but I still think it's dirty, and there's no need for that in the game of football.
On that one, I was a little bit unsure when I watched the replay, and I've never read the Canadian Football League rule book. I've read the amateur rule book many times, but the Canadian Football rule book is a little bit different. And so I'm not exactly sure what their designation is for cut blocks when they're legal and when they're not legal. At the beginning of the play, there's in amateur football, there's an area called the close line play area. A lot of people commonly call it the box. And so that's 2 yards in front of the offensive line, 2 yards behind the offensive line, and outside the shoulders of the offensive tackles. And that area, there's things that are allowed that are not allowed in other areas of the field. And when the ball was snapped, if you put a spot on the field where that block happened, it was pretty close to the close line play area. But after the ball was snapped, the offensive linemen on that side of the field both blocked down. So they were a long way inside by the time Duncan Busby got there. I'm not sure if he was coached. Like with the design of the play, it's possible that he could have been coached to make that cut block rather than just come and make a straight up block, which, he certainly could have. It wasn't like he was blocking a guy that was way bigger than him. He was blocking a defensive back who's probably a pretty similar sized player as him. And in that kind of situation, that's where I would agree with you that, like, just make a straight up block. Like, you don't have to nail the guy. You don't have to drive him back. You just have to get in his way and create that lane for the running back, that if that's where the point of attack is. That's the kind of plays they're trying to get out. And of course they, in some leagues, they focus more on the defense. Like, I think we maybe talked about this before. They don't allow high hits, and now they don't allow low hits below the knees. They're kind of really limiting where you can hit on defense. And maybe they need to be even more tight. And they did penalize that one tonight. I think the CFL can be guilty sometimes of penalizing based on the result of the play. Like, a guy got injured, we better really look at this one. And if at all possible, let's throw a flag on this one on review. Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure about their process, but in the end, I think it was fair. But and it only ended up being a 10-yard penalty. In amateur football, an illegal cut block is a 15-yard penalty. It's an unnecessary roughness penalty. So again, I'm not sure if there's a difference in CFL rules from amateur rules, but there's only a 10-yard penalty. It wasn't very punitive.
It's going to be an overarching thing for this show because I want to get into the ratio talk a little later on, because you and I had a nice spirited discussion behind the scenes, and then I put it out on social media and got some good feedback. But I think people need to realize in this country, and we've talked about this isn't a standalone league. The CFL is not a standalone league. And you made a good point behind the scenes. That's why it's the Canadian Football Hall of Fame. It's not the CFL Hall of Fame, okay? So that's the part I don't understand. Like, when I coached minor football coming up through the years, I had a play once. Believe it or not, I'm not saying I'm this big innovative guy, but I had a play at the goal line where I had my two guys push the quarterback into the end zone for the touchdown, and I got flagged for a tandem buck, they call it, and right. I blew a gasket. But that was a penalty in amateur football. But in the
NFL, they would call it the
tush push,
shove, which is legal, yeah. But in Canadian football, it's not legal.
But in Canada, will they let you do that here in the CFL? I know they won't let you do it in amateur. So my thing is this: why is every rule in amateur football not the same in the CFL? It's not a standalone league. We should be getting guys ready for the next level. Just like kickers in amateur football, kickers should be kicking their extra points in junior and university from the 32-yard line now, not from the 12-yard line. Are we getting them ready for the CFL, or are we getting, or like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and that kind of fits in with long-term athlete development, which is any sport in Canada that gets government funding has to have a long-term athlete development strategy, which means they strategically decide how are we going to do this sport appropriately for different ages and stages of development, starting when kids start to play, at whatever, depending on the sport, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years old. And then how does it gradually evolve as they get into 16, 17-year-olds, 20, 21-year-olds, and on to professional. And with that, like what you're talking about, that would fit. Like maybe the convert is 5 yards in minor football, and then in high school football, it's snapped from the 10 yards. And then maybe from university and junior football, it's snapped from the 20 or the 25-yard or whatever. Mm-hmm. It just gradually kind of gets longer. So what you're saying does fit in with the concept of long-term athlete development in Canada.
Yeah, so I would just like to see, that it's not a standalone league, that we have the same rules and everything going forward. All right, so an interesting game. The Riders, I never felt the Riders were going to lose it until almost the end of the game. And two things rear their ugly head. Now listen, I think Trevor Harris, and ugly head's maybe the wrong way to put it. Sometimes if you give people a long leash, they show you who they are. Now Trevor Harris is a consistent quarterback. He doesn't throw a lot of interceptions, but he doesn't push the ball down the field a lot. Yes, I know he had a nice post corner route touchdown to Dante Myers, and Trevor Harris, he wasn't the reason. That
wasn't super deep, though.
No, it wasn't super deep. The knock on Trevor Harris has been this. He's a great 20 to 20. He's a 20-20 quarterback. He can move it from the 20 to the 20. Inside the 20, things bog down. And at the end of the game, when the Riders needed to put a dagger in it, they had to settle for a field goal. And I was going to make Brett Lothar my offense or my special teams Waldo's Warriors. We talked about this. And then he shanks a 32-yard field goal for the second week in a row, Ryan. They could have put this game away, and Brett Lothar missed. And contrary to what Glenn Suter said, Glenn doesn't like to call anybody out. He's a friend. He doesn't like to call. He likes to ride the line. Listen, that was all on Brett Lothar. He missed that big time.
Yeah, I didn't see the hold on that one, but it just looked ugly coming right off his foot. So, yeah, whether he just mishit it, just like when I was out golfing this morning, how I mishit all of my wedge shots, if that's what happened, or if the hold was a little bit iffy, I don't know. But it was kind of an ugly miss there.
All right, so I want to talk about something next, Ryan, and we're going to get to it here because it's our first break, and it is for Ward Tirecraft. It's our drive of the game, and it was a drive that you don't usually see too much in the modern era of CFL football. Ward Tirecraft Regina, proud to be the last of the small-town style tire and automotive shops in the city, prioritizing the happiness of their customers and the safety of their vehicles. They've had some of the same customers for over 40 years, including yours truly, which is why I asked them to come on board as a sponsor for my shows. For all your tire and mechanical needs, go see Michael Barth and his crew at 101 Dudney Avenue. Tell them Ballsy sent you, and you get 10% off. All right, welcome back to the show. Riders win at 39-32 with Ryan Hall. I'm Michael Ball. It's Hallsy and Ballsy. If you're new to the show, we go a long way back. Brad Hirschmiller, the longtime equipment manager of the Regina Rams, he was a frugal guy. And so I was number 9 in high school, and I didn't even get a chance to pick a number. And as a rookie, you probably wouldn't, Ryan, but they just made me 10 because there was a guy named Ryan Hall who graduated the year, as I was coming in, you were going out, and you were Hall, and I'm Ball, so they changed the H to a B, and there I was, number 10 for my time with the Rams.
Yeah, I love that story. It's pretty funny. By the way, I am representing the Rams and the Huskies tonight.
I see that.
As you know, I've got connections to both teams. I played for the Rams. My son Peyton played for the Huskies. But I was thinking as I was watching the game, this didn't click in with me before. The Riders have starting defensive backs, and defensive back is my position. Starting defensive backs from the U of S Huskies, Nelson Nicombo, and from the U of R Rams.
Yeah, outstanding.
Tavon Campbell. And, could just as easily be Jackson Ford as well from the Rams, who's one of my former players from Campbell as well.
Yeah,
so I figured I'd represent both teams tonight because I'm proud to be associated with both teams.
Yeah, two great football teams for sure. And Jackson Ford did play with a big cast on his hand. You saw him down there on special teams.
Yeah, made some good special teams tackles, yeah.
Yeah, he did. So the drive of the game was a 17-play 96-yard drive that took 7 minutes off the clock and netted exactly 0 points for the Toronto Argonauts. That is the rarest of drives in the CFL, to go 17 plays, 7 minutes, 96 yards. That's your old Chicago Bears in 1985, except they would have handed it to the fridge and he would have bulldozed into the end zone. This time, the Argos don't get in, but just talk about both. it's weird, right, Ryan? Because on offense, you're taking it to him, but you're tired. Like Arbuckle was in there for short yardage, and pardon my French, but he was getting the shit beat out of him, okay, but staying in there. And I thought Nick Arbuckle had a good game, to be quite honest with you. But on defense, you're just gassed. Talk about being gassed on defense on a 17-play drive in the Canadian game.
Well, think of how that drive started, right? With Toronto starting deep in their own end, and they hadn't done anything on the ground, and all of a sudden they're cracking off these 10, 12-yard runs to get the drive going, to get out of the shadow of their own goalpost, get the ball toward midfield, and then they can start mixing it up more. And like those drives, those are a grind, like especially for those guys up front, the defensive linemen, man, they got to be digging in every play. And, you're always playing that chess game. Am I, based on the defensive coordinator's call, am I pass rushing, or am I trying to do my run fit and just control my back gap? And, you guess wrong, or your coach guesses wrong. And then you're chasing down a ball carrier. But yeah, it was awesome that, like Scott McCauley, our good friend, the head coach of the Regina Thunder, I don't think he came up with this saying, but there's a saying that he uses sometimes: all yards are 3 feet, but not all yards are equal. And that 1 yard from the 1 yard line to the goal line, should be the toughest yard on the football field. And for Toronto, it certainly was, with the way the Riders knuckled down finally after 17 plays and stopped them.
That's a great line, and it's true. It's kind of like in hockey, right? How do I put that when I'm calling the game? I'm trying to think. It's not maybe how many power plays you get, it's when you get them and if you score on them. That's kind of how it is. You might get 7 power plays, not get any goals. You might get 3, but get 2 goals, and that's the difference in the game, right? So all the power plays are generally 2 minutes. It's whether you can put it in the net or not, but I like how you put that there. Back to the... And we got some chats here. I should have acknowledged people watching the show, and I really appreciate it.
And calls, too. Let's get some calls.
Yeah, let's get some calls here. That's right. The number to call is 306-992-6955. Hi to Jamie. He or she says, Super Mario. That's right. Sven says, way to go, Riders. Now, Asparagus Electric. I'm going to say that's probably a fake one, but awesome 3-0 start. Can't wait to finish 9-8-1. And Ty 13 says, Ryan.
That's only funny because it's true.
Yeah, it's true. Ty 13 says, that roughing the passer late on Arbuckle, Micah Johnson, there's a meeting at the quarterback. He thought it was BS. The quarterback ducked. Your thoughts on that hit on Arbuckle where the Riders got flagged for roughing the passer?
Crap. Why did you bring that up? Because that was one play where I don't know what I was doing, but I walked out of the room and I didn't see the play. I just came back, and when they were talking about it and Micah Johnson getting flagged, so I got nothing intelligent.
Okay, so I do. I know he ducked his head. He's absolutely right. In fact, Dean Gerhardt, who owns Gerhardt Studios, helping me along with Leander do this. Dean knows about, no offense to Dean, but he knows about as much as football as this white piece of paper. And he said, that is not a penalty. The quarterback ducked. So even Dean was in on it. But here's the thing. It's still a blow. The guy was in the tackle box, so he wasn't because Dean's like, he's a running back, which once again, I'm like, holy shit, have you watched 10 years of football? But like, he was still in the pocket, so technically he's still a quarterback, and it was a blow to the head. It doesn't matter if the quarterback ducks his head. If there's a blow to the head, it's still a blow to the head on the quarterback. Now, we can argue, why can a running back give a stiff arm like Thomas the Train did to that defender, or like A.J. Ouellette was doing the whole time? But I get what you're saying, Ty 13, but I agree with that one. But I want to go to this one, okay? I was getting into it with a few fans online because now they call me Bomber Ballsy anytime I say anything against the Riders. But I'm serious about this. So that was a dirty play by Dell Duncan Busby. He will get fined for that. I'll be shocked if he doesn't. I said on Twitter it should have been half a game check. Maybe that's a little excessive, but it better be something that hits his pocketbook, because that could end a man's career. And to me, that's the equivalent of stabbing versus what I think it was 96 or 95 did to Trevor Harris. Now, he walloped him on the very next play, if you remember, if you saw that. And that was a penalty, and he was penalized. But that's the equivalent of a speeding ticket compared to what Busby did to the Argo guy, okay? I'm not saying it's right. I don't want Trevor Harris hurt. But that's like baseball, right? We just saw that with the Padres and the Dodgers. You plunk Ohtani, we plunk Ohtani, you plunk Tatis. Like, that was football's equivalent, in my opinion.
And you don't see that very often. Like, usually in football, football is one of those sports that it's not like hockey where it's, take a number and retaliate the next shift or later in the game or whatever, you go after somebody. So that was kind of a rare thing. And again, maybe goes back to the fact that it only ended up being a 10-yard penalty. And the Argonauts, I'm not going to say they were coached to take a shot on Harris or not, but, maybe that was what was on their mind. But, you don't like vigilante justice in sports, that if we're going to have sports like that's where things are going to get out of hand. But, like that, certainly the play by Duncan Busby was the result was much worse. And the play itself, the action itself was a lot more potentially dangerous than the one on Harris.
All right, so let's take another break here, and I want to take a break and bring up the Italian Star Deli takeout of the game. This, though, in my opinion, I think you're going to know where I'm going to go with this, Ryan. This, in my opinion, was not a defensive play. Let's get to it. The Italian Star Deli, providing Regina and area with quality specialty products since 1966. When you visit the Italian Star Deli, you're truly part of the family. So drop by any time and they'll help you find whatever your heart and palate may desire. Whether you're looking for olive oil, specialty meats and cheeses, pasta, sea salt, vinegar, canned tomatoes, or one of their mouth-watering famous sandwiches. You're sure to find it and so much more at the Italian Star Deli, 1631 Victoria Avenue, Regina. And I want to give a shout out to Dean and Nicole Gerhardt Studios here at McCarra Street. If you want to have them look after your website and all your social media, they are the folks to go to. And of course, great still photography with Nicole. Leander, one of their employees, doing a great job operating this show. Got a lot of great comments about the commercials we've put together for clients. If you want to sponsor, just hit us up. You can always DM me or get a hold of me, 306-526-7979. We need sponsors so we could pay our great analysts like Ryan Hall. Get a lot of great comments too. Getting a lot of great comments about Ryan's detailed analysis. They really like it. Okay, so the takeout of the game was just a good old-fashioned football play. It was the A.J. Ouellette touchdown run, and I want you to take us through it, Ryan. There was a great kick-out block by Brammer, and then Tate, the former Argo and Stampeder lineman, leading the way for A.J. Ouellette.
Yeah, when you think about offensive coordinators, they love whiteboards because, they can draw up their plays and every single play results in a touchdown because everybody blocks everybody. And, everything always works out perfect when you're an offensive coordinator with a whiteboard marker. But that was one where it actually translated onto the field really well because the blocking was on point. And on the TV broadcast, they emphasized Brammer with the kickout block. So he came from the inside. A kickout block is where you come from the inside and then you go out and so he was the left guard and he went and kicked out on the right side. So the right tackle left the end man on the line unblocked. So he thinks, oh, this is awesome. I get a free run at the quarterback. And all of a sudden, wham, you get kicked out. That's what a kick out block is. So that was the one at the initial point of attack. But the one that I really liked was Tate, who also came from the inside, came around through that hole and then cut up field. And so often you watch it, and you watch this at any level of football, the NFL, the CFL, college football on both sides of the border. When you get those offensive linemen in the open field downfield, so many times, like vast majority of the time, they're running down the field, these big 300-pound guys with the ball carrier behind them, and they don't block anybody. You know, they just go trucking down the field and they don't block anybody. And then the ball carrier gets tackled. You know, maybe it's a nice 20-yard gain, but if that big lineman would have blocked somebody, it could have been a touchdown. On that play, Tate did go. He went downfield. He looked for work. He looked for a blue jersey. He found somebody. He blocked him, and that was the block that got Willette into the end zone. You know, obviously with Willette making a nice run. But that blocking was really beautiful, really nicely designed, and really, more importantly, nicely executed on the field.
So that's our takeout of the game for the Italian Star Deli. Great place there on Vic Avenue. I don't know how often you go there, but I usually go there once a week, man.
As much as I can.
Yeah.
Well, I don't live in the city quite, so I can't go once a week. But I got a $25 gift card that's burning a hole in my pocket for the Italian Star Deli. So
quit being a dink and stealing from there. Okay, a lot of guys go in and try to shoplift. It seems like every week they're putting a post out that somebody's walking in there and shoplifting there. But pay for it, man. Pay for it. It's worth paying for. Okay. So AJ Ouellette, I was critical of him last year, fairly. Like, he came with a big price tag and didn't live up to it. Came in with some shot hips. Kudos to him. He recognized that he had to get a little leaner. And, you know, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out when you're not as big, maybe it's not as much wear and tear on your joints. He looks a little crisper. He looks a little more fleet of foot. And he looks like he's not looking to punish guys. Not saying he can't punish guys, but I felt Ryan, he was trying to punish guys last year and looking for contact. He'll initiate and gladly take contact, but he's not looking for that. Your thoughts on AJ Ouellette's play so far this year?
He has been really improved, and he does still look for contact. When you look at his big touchdown run last week, you know, he was in the open field, and that defensive back came to get him, and he turned and he dropped his shoulder into that guy. You know, he wasn't trying to run away from him. He did engage the contact downfield. But, you know, that's a fairly intelligent play for a big, you know, he's still a pretty big guy compared to those defensive backs that are trying to bring him down. My analysis of his play is, as long as he gets a block at the point of attack, as long as he gets through the line of scrimmage, he's really dangerous. He's not the kind of guy that if the hole's plugged up, he's going to do a nice jump cut 2 gaps over and have the burst to kick it outside or cut up through a different gap. That's not him. He's a north-south guy. So if you get him a little bit of space to get through the D line, and then he's playing against smaller guys, linebackers, and most CFL linebackers these days are not like they used to be. You know, they're basically glorified defensive backs. You know, not many of them are that much over 200 pounds. So, yeah, once he gets against those guys, now it becomes a physical mismatch, and he's got a head of steam going. So, yeah, so it's been really fun to watch him play this year.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, like we said last week, Ryan, competition, right? I was critical. I thought, why is Kadeem Carey not on the roster? This would be a revenge game for Kadeem Carey. Corey Mace, why are you dressing 9 defensive linemen? Maybe take 1 defensive lineman off, and probably for special teams, but why not Kadeem Carey? But Kadeem Carey's kind of over here, right? So now all of a sudden, AJ Ouellette, little bit of competition. I like to eat, so I'm gonna pick my game up a little bit. And so competition's a good thing. Thomas the Train running hard there. Bertrand.
Yeah, good to see him back in the game tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. So competition is a good thing, like I said. In terms of running the football, now, another thing I've been critical in the past of is, like, we waste a lot of money in this league on third down quarterbacks, short yardage quarterbacks that can't throw the ball. One guy that comes to mind for me, Dominique Davis, who's recently retired. Yes, I know one game there a few years back for Ottawa. I threw for over 400 yards against the Riders. But other than that, he just was like
the Riders are pretty famous for
that's right.
Allowing like third string quarterbacks to light them up.
You know what I mean?
That's happened for decades.
Right. So it's like we spend a lot of money on guys that are just going to be mannequins on the sidelines, okay? But I will tell you this. Touchdown Tommy Stevens from Penn State. And I know this because I called 2 long touchdown runs for in the booth as the voice of the Riders when he was with the Stamps. Like one where he goes around the left end and goes for 70 yards. Like, he's a guy in short yardage that could break it. And He's automatic. Like you texted me. It's absolutely right. This guy's a weapon, and he is deserving of that short yardage contract for sure. I stand corrected.
Well, if you look at the game of football, like we said a few minutes ago, every yard is 3 feet, but not all yards are equal. And when it's 3rd and 1, how important is that yard? If it's 1st and 10, how important is a yard? It's kind of important, but it's not that big of a deal. 3rd and 10, it's the most important yard of your life at that time. And if you've got a guy that can get it as almost automatically as Tommy Stevens, and we both follow the NFL, and there's lots of talk in the NFL at the owners' meetings this winter about getting rid of the tush push, banning it, because there's teams that don't like it because there's a certain team that's really good at it. Mm-hmm. And when it's 4th and 1, it's almost automatic for those dudes. And so the NFL is looking at that and saying, well, they shouldn't be able to do that because they're better than us. Well, like I think intelligent people in the NFL say, well, then figure out how to stop it. Like you shouldn't make a rule against somebody. Now, again, what they do in the NFL isn't legal in Canadian football, but I don't think you should make a rule against somebody just because you can't stop them. But anyway, I think the value of that short yardage quarterback was proved tonight. Like, where would the Riders be if they didn't get those 3rd down conversions, or if Stevens didn't get into the end zone?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Probably be 2-1 right now.
Well, that's absolutely right. There's plays that have gone their way early on. Hey, got some more chat material here. Mojo says, "I'm glad we have Stevens. In this league, that's an important role." Ty wants to know, do you think that it'll be dinner on Delta for Lothar? I don't think so. He is the most accurate kicker in Rider history, believe it or not. He did this last year. He had 4 field goal misses in one game and then missed 1 field goal all the rest of the way. Listen, he
looked really good with all his kicks tonight, except that last one. Like, everyone was right down the middle. It wasn't like they were like, oh, Jesus, is it going to get inside?
Yeah, and we're not homers here. We are not homers here. It's ballsy uncut. We call it like we see it. Part of the reason why I'm sitting here now, not in a broadcast booth. Brett Lothar I'm a friend of Brett Lothar's. I like Brett Lothar. Great guy, and I believe in his talent. But he will tell you he has to be better. That's a dagger. That game didn't need to go to 30. We didn't need Super Mario's heroics if Trevor Harris in the offense can punch it in from the 20, and if Brett Lothar can make what amounts to an extra point. I want to go back, though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah?
What else could we have avoided this down?
Well, Marcus Sayles has to make an interception, and I want to get
end of the first half.
I want to get to the secondary in a minute, okay? Because I know you want to get there as a defensive back guy, but you're absolutely right. It's not just on those two guys. 1 or 2 plays don't kill you. But as Ron Lancaster told me, he told me 2 things. Number 1, when you throw the ball as a quarterback, there's no string on it. So let it go, and whatever happens, happens. You can't get it back. Number 2, the game is decided on 3 to 5 plays, and generally that is the case. But where I was going with this is, and I want to ask your opinion of this. Can you, and this isn't on Corey Mace. Looks like Mace made the right call having A.J. Ouellette and Bertrand Hudon. Like I said, I was critical, saying, hey, why didn't they dress Carey? Do you think sometimes coaches that are both the head coach and the DC or the OC get too narrow focused, too pigeonholed? Like, now they put their D coordinator cap on and they're like, okay, I need 9 D linemen and I need this, and they get kind of, you know what I mean? Or you're in a practice and your defense absolutely sucks in practice. So you rip your defense and walk off the field and you're mad, but your offense just had a great day of practice and you didn't say anything to your offense, or vice versa. Now, I'm not saying Mace does that, but I think maybe a little bit. Do you agree? He looks at his roster, goes, no, I need 9 D linemen. Sorry, Kadeem, you can't play.
That's been my perspective for as long as I've been a head coach. Like, I'm more of a defensive guy, and so if I'm not a head coach, then I'm often a defensive coordinator. But when I'm head coach, I don't want to be defensive coordinator anymore, because you're exactly right. Like, you view everything through defensive coordinator goggles, or if I was an offensive guy, I would view everything through offensive coordinator goggles. So every analysis of every practice, was it a good practice or bad practice? Well, it depends on what my side of the ball did. So as a head coach, and I've shared this with other younger coaches, guys that have worked with me and they aspire to be head coaches, and like a guy like Will Putland that was the head coach of Team Sask under 16 this spring. He's a defensive guy, but when he was head coach of Team South Sask, he gave up defensive coordinating, gave it to another qualified coach, Davin Williamson, and chose to not be the defensive coordinator so he could have a better perspective on the team and the game as a whole. And he talked to me afterwards and he said, I'm really happy that I did that. I'm really glad I did that. When I was head coaching, whether it was for Team Saskatchewan or whether it was at Campbell, like when I was head coach, I don't want to be the defensive coordinator or the offensive coordinator. I'll be the special teams coordinator, because special teams coordinator, you have to have a really good sense of the whole team. You have to value players on both sides of the ball, your offensive players and your defensive players. And you have to think strategically, like, when you're deciding to accept penalties or not accept penalties and go for it on third down or not, you're doing it from the perspective of, is this a good kicking situation or is it a good gambling situation? Because, you've got a good perspective of both. So that one, yeah, I agree 100%. And we talked about it last year with Dave Dickinson from Calgary, just having too many hats that kind of prevent him from doing his job. And his job is his main job, I think, is head coach of the Calgary Stampeders. Mm-hmm. So be the freaking head coach. Like, don't try and do every other job. Do a great job of being the head coach. And yeah, I really like Coach Mace, but I would really like to see him take his hands off the defense and let somebody else run the defense so he can just manage the game, manage his players even better than he's already doing it.
Okay, so Ryan, let's get to the defensive back talk before we take our next break for the I believe we're doing the On the Money segment with Kevin Payson, talking about one of the great passes in the game. Before we do that, though, let's talk DBs. Overall, what are your thoughts of the Riders' secondary? Bell, the DBs coach, was asked this week about that, and he said, listen, we're winning. We're making plays, and we have to make plays, and so I'm not too concerned about it. Just your thoughts, because at times they look good, and at times they look out to lunch. And maybe some of it is defensive calling, like you said. I didn't get, and we're not there on the sidelines, and I'm not in the coaching room, neither are you, but you've coached a lot. So that first touchdown, Argos go down. By the way, the Riders' defense, and you pointed this out, have given up a touchdown to start the game in every one of the three games. Ottawa, Hamilton, and Toronto. But what the hell was going on at the 5-yard line? You're playing zone defense at the goal line? Like, Sales and Milligan looked like he was standing in Hamilton.
I mean, you can play zone defense down deep, but if you do it, you can't leave an inside receiver uncovered where he's got a 7-yard wide open walk into the end zone and an easy pitch and catch for the quarterback. So you can play zone defense in that situation, and it's not as rare as you think. I think it does happen a lot more than you expect it does. But like, the Riders play primarily zone defense in their pass coverage. Mm. And I think we've talked about this before. Zone defense doesn't require as much athletic ability, but it requires way more intelligence, way more communication, and way more discipline. And those are some things that I'm not seeing from some of the Riders defenders. There's just too many times where they're, okay, I'm just going to come out and say, like, Marcus Sales, if you get a chance to watch him, if he's he's usually not on the screen when the play starts because he's a corner and the TV is kind of zoomed in right on, the interior. But if you ever see him before the play, like the saying I use when I'm coaching players or even teaching kids in phys ed class when we're doing different sports, I always say, like, don't stand there like you're waiting for a bus. Get down into an athletic position. And whenever you see him, he has no athletic position to start the play. He's just kind of standing loosey-goosey. It doesn't look like he's even ready for the play sometimes, just kind of starts and says, oh, okay, I better do something now. And we saw it last week where they were playing a quarters coverage or a two deep. It wasn't a quarters. It was two deep, two safeties deep. And he let his wide receiver have an easy outside release down the sideline, Lawler, who was wide open for a big reception. And Lacombo got hung out to dry because he had to cover half the field as the deep half guy. Mm-hmm. There's just so many times where he in particular, like Tavon Campbell, I'm wearing my Rams hat because I'm super excited that Tavon's with the Riders. But, same thing, like just a lot of lack of discipline from Tavon where he's letting guys get past him, like late in the game where he got that interception. Like that was cover 3.
So yeah, let me stop you.
You should not let anybody get behind you.
Let me stop you. So on the broadcast, they said that he baited Arbuckle into making that throw, and you were like, "There's no way he baited him. He just got lazy."
Well, you see it like if you watch, there was a man-to-man play where he got the guy he was supposed to he was on the other side of the field. The guy who was supposed to cover got behind him, and it's because like he was up playing press, and then he just took his eyes totally off his man, and he was looking in the backfield. He's looking at the quarterback. Like you're a corner, you're a field side corner, a wide side corner. What business do you have looking in the backfield? You will never make a play as a field side corner on something that's happening in the backfield. You need to cover the guy that's going to be wide open for a touchdown if you don't cover him. Or if it's 3 deep, you got to be deeper than the deepest. You can't be letting some guy run free behind you and cover 3 and given that, like, the only reason he got bailed out on that is because Arbuckle underthrew the ball. Mm-hmm. If that ball would have had the accuracy it should have had, that was an easy touchdown.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even though he's fast, he couldn't have recovered on a properly thrown ball on that.
I wonder.
I just see a real lack of discipline in their zone coverage.
I wonder sometimes though. Tavon Campbell is generally there aren't too many guys on a field faster than Tavon Campbell. I think sometimes and it's not just Tavon Campbell. I think a lot of defensive backs, agree or disagree, I think a lot of defensive backs get sucked into their own talent and they get lazy with their mechanics or lazy with their eyes and think they can overcome it with their running ability.
Like as a coach or even as a player, like I never had that luxury because I wasn't a good enough athlete. Like Rick Seaman, my defensive back coach, like he hammered me on my technique every day at practice with the Rams. Every game, like I'd come off the field and that stupid black phone on the sideline would be ringing. It was Rick upstairs, wanted to coach me up on something that I wasn't doing right. But you have to do that. Like these guys at the pro level, I mean, even sometimes at the university level, they're such great athletes that they can get away with stuff. And Tavon Campbell has gotten away with a number of plays where he's gotten beat over the top and he's fast enough to recover. Mm-hmm. But like, why do that? Why not combine your amazing athleticism with some good technique? And for the Riders defensive back coach to give the answer, well, we're winning and we're making plays, so what does it matter? I got a huge problem with that as a coach. Like when I coach, it's all about we're going to be the best we can be every day of the week. We're not good enough today, so we need to work at it. That's why we practice. Mm-hmm. We don't practice just to put in time. We practice to get better. And we practice to get better so when it's the game day, we can perform at our absolute best, doing our technique, doing the systems, working together, communicating, and again, talking primarily from the defensive perspective. But why would you not want to put your players in the best possible position to make plays by being really demanding of them and not letting them get sloppy in their habits? And I just see a lot of sloppiness and lack of discipline.
It was a sloppy game at times, but very entertaining, and the Riders win at 39-32. They're 3-0. Okay, let's get to our On the Money segment for Payson Insurance Services. Payson Insurance specializes in helping hard-to-insure people get coverage. They also offer a range of financial management and investment services to help secure your future. People care most about their money and their family. I personally trust Kevin. Best way to describe dealing with him are the 3 C's. He's comfortable to deal with, He cares about your future, and he's confident in helping you make the right financial decisions. Payson Insurance. Give them a call, 306-596-0244. All right, getting some nice feedback on our background. Yeah, Leander did a great job, so we always put the stadium behind that they were playing in. Today was BMO Field.
Is there fans in the stadium? I can't see the
no.
picture.
There's no fans.
It's just empty.
It's empty.
Okay.
It's BMO Field.
So it's realistic.
It's good. Actually, they had almost 18,000 for their home opener, and it was a decent crowd today. They never opened the top bowl. So, and a lot of green and white fans, of course, Rider fans travel very well. Rough Riders win at 39-32. They're 3-0. The Argos are 0-3. It's getting real late, very early for the rest of the East. Montreal's 3-0. Toronto's 0-3. Hamilton is on a bye. And, of course, Ottawa, I think, is going to go 0-3 in Calgary tomorrow. But we'll get to that before the show wraps up. He is Hallsy. I'm Ballsy. Still have not had – listen, people like to chat in today's day and age, but they don't like to chat the old way. I got a lot of people saying, I'd call if I could just call in. Well, 306-992-6955. Call in. Let's talk.
Think of the old call-in shows after the game on your drive home. It's awesome.
There's nothing to listen. There's nothing to listen to now but us. So check it out. Here it's the Our Balls Are Bigger post-game show. So on the money, the honorable mention is going to go to Deontay Myers running that. He was running a slant, and then he took it a little bit upfield and a perfect post corner for the touchdown. Good throw by Harris, but it was a great route by Deontay Myers. The one pass that I said was on the money, or I thought was on the money because it was a great catch and a mistimed jump by the corner 23 for the Argos. Mitch picked it on the sidelines. I'll say that's my on-the-money play. Great job by Mitch to kind of bail out his quarterback, but Trevor Harris did put it where it had to be.
Yeah, and it was great coverage. Like, that's the thing with being a defensive back. Sometimes you have great coverage, and the stupid receiver still makes the catch. And, that was the only time Mitch Picton was targeted tonight. And he came down with that great catch, and, I kind of wish that he could have got a couple more targets. There's a couple of times where, like Harris's interception and the one that should have been an interception to Judge, like he threw into three defenders, trying to throw to a receiver that's in a window covered by three defenders. So if there's three defenders around one guy, then there's got to be one or two guys open that have a lot of space around them. But that one on the slant and go to Myers, that was a really nice pass. Watching the TV, Luke Wilson was talking about, he showed those highlights and he was talking about those being RPOs, run pass options. They weren't. I think he was wrong on that. I think they were just straight play action. A run pass option is where the quarterback holds the ball out for the running back and reads a defensive player, and as the play proceeds, decides, am I going to if the defensive player is keeping contained, I'm going to hand it off to the running back. If the defensive player is jumping inside, I'm going to pull the ball and then roll out a little bit so I've got some open space. I'm going to pass the ball. But that one, on the one to Myers, like, he had his back to the defense. It can't be a run pass option if you have your back to the defense, because you can't read anybody. An option means you're reading somebody. Mm-hmm. So that's if you got your back to the defense as a quarterback, that's play action. If you looked at those plays, there was no riding of the running back, to give him the opportunity to take it. It was just a fake handoff and then pulling it right back so that he could throw it. And that, like, the Riders' play action is very effective. And the last couple of games, Harris has made some great plays, some great passes on play action. But that play action only works if the run game works. And that's why it's working well for the Riders, because their run game has been working really well. And so they can have that legitimate run threat, get the defense to bite on it on that fake, and then Harris can pull back and he's got more open windows to throw.
All right, let's get to our next feature, Leander. It's going to be our lit play of the game, and that's brought to you by JLB Electric. At JLB Electric, their mission is to provide top-quality residential and commercial electrical services in Regina and surrounding area. They're committed to delivering efficient, reliable, and affordable electrical solutions, including new construction wiring, renovations, service upgrades, and 24-hour emergency assistance. Their team of licensed electricians ensures exceptional service from start to finish. They prioritize safety, customer satisfaction, and expert workmanship. As Regina's trusted one-stop shop for electrical contracting, they are dedicated to powering our community with excellence. Welcome back to the Our Balls Are Bigger postgame show. Riders improved to 3-0, 39-32 over the Toronto Argonauts. Riders had been on a 3-game slide in Toronto. Argos had won the last 3 versus the Riders at BMO Field, so this is a nice win for Saskatchewan. And Ryan, very important for the Riders to beat up on Eastern opponents. East notoriously gets off to a slow start. The Riders have a solid Eastern Division schedule to start the season, and so, hey, 3-0, that's a nice start.
Well, especially when you're doing 2 road games to the East, like back-to-back trips to Ontario. Did they stay in Ontario, or did they come back?
No, they came back and went back.
Yeah, so that's a lot of travel, a lot of days out of your routine and stuff like that. So it is tough, and so if they can make hay in situations like that early in the season, that's really important to take advantage of those kind of opportunities. We're
going to get a call here, but just hold on. I want to get to our lit play of the game. Now, it was going to be that slant pattern to Deontay Myers where it was slant. I think it was actually a deep in cut, and then he kind of rounded it off and then just took it straight, on a nice angle. Bad pursuit angles by the Toronto defense, too, I thought, in that play. But the lit play of the game, obviously.
And missed tackles.
Yeah,
2 missed tackles.
Yeah, missed tackles. Obviously, the lit play of the game is Mario Alford. And hey, as 2 older guys, we just watched Corey Perry and Brad Marchand have a good playoff in hockey. It's great to see the old guys still chugging. And it's, this guy had heat. Oh, he's 34. He makes a lot of money. Maybe this McRae guy, we're going to take him out of training camp, and he'll be the returner. But all Mario Alford does is return kicks for tutties, man. That's a nice touchdown return.
Long live the special teams. Let's go.
Yeah. Hey, and listen, the Canadian game, that's why. Don't, excuse my French, Luke Wilson. By the way, Luke Wilson, maybe not be your cup of tea. And I know a guy that's like that, actually, okay? But he wanted to touch the kicking rules. No. Don't fuck with the kicking game in the CFL or in 3-down football. Excuse my language. But don't fuck with the kicking game for the exact reason that we saw at the end of that game. A touchdown.
Think of what would happen in the NFL. That would have been a nothing play. They would have kicked it through the end zone. Everybody would have walked off the field. The referee would have magically blown their whistle. Yeah. Nothing of any interest would have happened. And here we had like a super exciting finish to a game because of Canadian rules, Canadian special teams being important because of our roots in rugby. The kicking game is still important. I'm not going to say the F word, but don't touch the special teams.
I did. Rules. Sorry, I did. I had to say.
I know, you're allowed to.
Well, you're allowed to too, but you don't. I just do. I said it, and I mean it. Like, don't mess with the kicking game. It's ridiculous. Okay, let's try this call. Want to try it? Can you hit it there? Let's go. We're waiting to see it come up here. Hi, who am I talking to?
It's Avery.
It's Avery. Oh, Avery. Okay, go ahead, Avery. What do you got there?
So when Corey Mace challenged that pass interference, because you guys were talking about how Corey Mace might be a little distracted from doing both head coach and defensive calling at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to like calling that pass interference challenge, like I thought that was kind of absurd because both the broadcast team, like it seemed like the broadcast team and every fan was thinking, oh, they're challenging the roughing the passer. What the heck happened there?
Yeah, I don't know that either, Avery, and I don't know I don't know the rules. I feel bad. Like I don't think you should be able to just remember back when it first came in, Ryan. It was like there was a play, and then all of a sudden, coach is going to challenge something on the far side of the sidelines that was just inside had nothing to do with the play. Like you don't want to get. I would love to have a world without instant replay, Avery, but unfortunately, the horse is out of the barn. It's not coming back in the barn. I just don't want to do that, Ryan. I think that's a little ridiculous.
Well, I think to answer Avery's question, usually at this level of football, the head coaches would have one or possibly two people who are looking at the replays up in the booth, like in their coach's spotter's booth, and then they're calling down, hey, coach, challenge the pass interference or challenge the roughing the passer or whatever. So I assume what happened on that one is whoever is in Coach Mace's headset said, okay, I think we can win this one. And when you look at the replay, there was a little bit of interference. There was a little bit of a grab. I think by the rules, it could have been called, but like on a replay, they're going to demand like a really blatant breaking of the rules, I think. And so I think that's why they didn't call it. I think it was pass interference. I think he did get grabbed when he was making a play for the ball. But I think the replay, whatever they call them, the command center, they probably didn't want to make a big call like that at that point in the game unless it was like really flagrant and obvious. I think in the first quarter, I don't know. I think maybe that one gets called by the command center, but at that point in the game, maybe not.
Avery, thanks.
But I think like and with Avery's question, like as a coaching staff, especially at the pro level, it's very important to delegate duties to everybody. You can't have people that are just hanging out on the sideline. Everybody's got to have a job, and there's going to be somebody on the Riders staff whose job is to look at every play, every play on the replay and be in the coach's ear if they think there's something they can challenge.
Avery, thanks for the call. I really appreciate it. He's a great
first one of the season.
Thanks, Avery. And he's my broadcast partner if it's the right Avery for the Thunder games on Access. So thanks, Avery, for calling in. Let's go to our next caller. We got two, Ryan. Woo!
Thanks, guys.
We're rolling now. I think this is Wayne on the phone from Victoria. Wayne, how are you? Oh, we'll wait for Wayne to load up here. Takes a second.
Doing?
Hi, Wayne. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, Ballsy. I haven't talked to you for a long time.
Well, now you know where to call. You know where to call
I was just
now.
calling. Yeah, well, I'm also watching you on YouTube, so
Awesome.
It's great.
Awesome.
But anyway, the point I wanted to make about the game was that two things about Thomas the Train. I forget his Hudon.
Bertrand Hudon.
Anyway,
Yeah, Bertrand Hudon. Yeah.
Yeah, the few plays that he had, he did great. He is just a tremendous player. He got the play got called back and stuff like that. That type of thing. But it's hard to complain about a team that isn't playing their best football, and we're still 3-0. Now, okay, we haven't played the top teams either, but you know what I'm saying.
Well,
and, I got frustrated with all the penalties too. And everything seemed to go against us. You know what? I'm in my 70s, okay? I've been watching the Riders for years and listening to you, Ballsy, for years too. But anyway, my point is that I understand that they never do things easy here, or there in Saskatchewan.
No.
I live out here in the coast now.
No, I know you do. You live in Victoria. I was just in Victoria. What a great place that is. I love Victoria. What a beautiful place.
Hey,
yeah,
and Wayne,
I like it for the winters because of the snow.
Okay, yeah. All right. Anything else?
Bertrand Hudon, that's his name.
Yeah, that's him. Yeah. Anything else, Wayne?
No, just basically, I know people are going to be calling for Lowther again and stuff like that, but, it's whatever. Anyway, bye-bye.
Thanks, Wayne. Appreciate that. Awesome.
Okay, sorry.
Go ahead, Ryan.
With Wayne talking about Bertrand Hudon, did you notice his block on the kickoff return by Alfred at the end of the game? He threw the key block to get that touchdown. So not only running the ball well, but also blocking on special teams.
Here's the key, though. This is where roster management is. You can't put Bertrand Hudon. Bertrand Hudon has to stay on the roster now, or he has to go on the injured list, because if ever he's on a practice roster, he'll be plucked. He's a free. He'll be plucked. You can't. That's it now, and I love it. And that's going to get us to. We got something we got to address before it's all said and done here. Okay. By the way, I want to say about Luke Wilson before we're done. They've got him in the wrong spot. I would consider myself. I'm a veteran broadcaster. You can dispute whether you think I'm good enough or not, but if you've been around something for 28, 30 years, like Ryan has in teaching, you kind of know what it's all about. Luke Wilson shouldn't be a sideline guy. Luke, my sideline person should do what Britt Dort is doing. Interviewing the people. It shouldn't be Luke Wilson telling me what plays. He should be up in the broadcast booth as a color commentator because he's got some balls and he's got some jam, and I would like that. They've got him miscasted, as it were.
And he's got, I don't know what, I think by jam you mean energy. He's got some interesting personality. I don't know if they're a little worried about him being a little too controversial or what. Like,
well, they can't be Ryan. They can't be Ryan. He's on Twitter lighting everybody up, calling them goofballs.
Oh, that's what I was going to say. On Twitter, he's got this hate list of people that I saw this week, of people that he's cutting off, or that are CFL followers or CFL fans that he put on this hate list or whatever. Like, what? Why would you do that? I don't get it. But
how the hell? Here's the question I have. Here's the question I have, Hallsy. How does that guy get a job and I got fired?
You didn't play in the NFL, I guess.
I guess that's the problem. Like, come on. Like, everybody's talking about this guy's been shaking the CFL up. I've been shaking the CFL up for 25 freaking years. Come on. Anyway, we are going to take a break, and our last break is Waldo's Warriors. My buddy Paul Waldo, our buddy Paul Waldo, Thunder player, Husky coach, 3-time Grey Cup champ, and now in the real estate game in Regina and surrounding area. Well, Waldo's Warriors highlights the stars of the game. And speaking of stars, how about Paul Waldo? Played at Dr. Martin Labolis, played for the junior Thunder football team, U of S Huskies, coaches the U of S Huskies, and won 3 Grey Cups, 2 with the Montreal Alouettes, 1 with your Saskatchewan Roughriders. He's taken that dedication and teamwork mindset to the real estate game with his great team at Royal LePage. Get in the real estate game with Paul Waldo by giving him a call, 306-502-5355. And welcome back. The number to call if you want to get in like Wayne, did, and if you want to get in like Avery did, 306-992-6955, the number to call. Talking football, talking Rider football, 39-32 victory over the Toronto Argonauts. They're 3-0. The Argos are 0-3. So the Waldo's Warriors, offensively, I initially was going to go with A.J. Ouellette. Just because, coming off last season, getting hurt early on, we were skeptical it was going to be much of the same. He gets an honorable mention for the second straight week. I'm going with Dante Myers. And when KSB comes back, however long that is, one of the fans wanted to know, what happens when KSB comes back? What do they do with all these receivers? It's a good problem to have. Jeremy O'Day has done a good job, along with Kyle Carson, getting a pretty good receiving core. Dante Myers is my offensive player of the game. You agree with that? Ryan?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I like Ouellette. I like Johnson. Like, Johnson only had a few catches and not for big yards, but he was really effective in the blocking game.
Yes, he was.
Myers had the flash plays, the 2 big touchdowns, which of course are massive. So yeah, I'm not sure.
Okay.
Look, I think he certainly didn't have a bad game. I'm just trying to think who was the most valuable, but yeah, I'll take it. But
okay.
I think those other guys were pretty good too.
On defense, we were doing a coin flip, me and you, picking the Waldo's Warrior on defense. DeMarcus Fields, I thought, had a good game, number 22. But I'm going to go with the old graybeard, Micah Johnson, whose arms have their own area code. Dude's a building with feet. I thought he had a good game. Had a quarterback sack. Yeah, I got a roughing the passer penalty. We can decide if it was tic-tacky or not. But I thought a good game for Micah Johnson.
Well, if you remember back 2 weeks ago when we did the Ottawa game, I texted you and I said, is Johnson playing?
Yeah.
Like, I didn't notice him at all. Tonight he was very noticeable. And mostly it was for good stuff. Yeah, like roughing the passer penalties as a head coach, as a defensive coach, most of the time I don't get mad at my players for roughing the passer penalties because the rules are so ridiculous. It's so impossible for a 300-pound man who's got another 300-pound man in front of him that he's trying to muscle to try and get to a quarterback and maybe gets past and gets a 5-yard run to stop in an instant as soon as a quarterback releases the ball. Like it's physically impossible for these guys to not take roughing the passer penalties. So as a coach, I would never get mad at players if they were, playing within the rules and they got there and, they took their step and they made the tackle or they made the contact, or like Micah Johnson brushes a helmet or whatever. Like it's the rules. Like it's not, you can't get mad at a guy for that. He's playing football. He's not being dirty. So it was really, I thought he had a lot of push up front for most of the game. Toronto had a hard time getting the run game going. There's a couple of times where he kind of got washed a little bit. Fields had a good game for a lot of the game. He got beat for the 2-point convert at the end of the game. But yeah, I like Micah Johnson for sure.
Yeah, Micah Johnson.
See him really step up.
Mike Rose had his first quarterback sack as a rider, and I thought Jameer Thurman, he always plays a solid game. But I go with Micah Johnson, and then the Waldo's Warrior on special teams. It's obvious it is Mario Alford. Okay, I want to get to this before we wrap this show up. First off, quick thoughts on the game last night. I don't know if you watched it. Trey Ford was not spectacular at the start, and Montreal did lay off a bit at the end, but he rallied him back. What I liked about it is Edmonton is giving him a leash, and a lot of times Canadian quarterbacks, they have to